Hey guys, welcome to another episode and also welcome to a brand new year. Probably noticed that I haven't uploaded anything for the past 2 months, and the reason for that is that me and my friend Ziggy, we've been working hard to launch Magnimetrics. I've been talking about Magnimetrics for quite some time, and I always wanted to show more, but I was kind of hesitant. I wanted to be good enough to be public. We launched our beta, is now live, and you can grab your free account on the first link in the description below. What I want to do today is I want to spend about half an hour and I want to walk you through a step-by-step guide on how to build your own project in Magnimetrics to track debt covenants for a company over time. Of course, if you just want to go ahead and look at the finished project, you can do that. It's available on the Magnimetrics dashboard as part of the free templates that you can use. I definitely suggest you try it. It's what we're trying to do is we're trying to provide an FP&A solution that helps you to quickly translate your financial data into meaningful insights to support your decision-making process. We're going to take an income statement and balance sheet from Excel and convert them into this dynamic report that you can then easily generate every time you add new periods to your data. So let's say it's a new quarter. You want to calculate all your covenants. Just drop in the new quarter data and your report is updated with trends and everything. By the way, if you're enjoying the videos, thumbs up will be awesome and a sub to the channel will be amazing. Let's go ahead and open, not Excel, but magnimetrics.com. So grab your free account and let's go. So I have my project screen here in app.magnimetrics.com. I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. It's going to be my debt covenants project. I want it to be private. I want a blank template and let me add an image. That's an image I created in Canva. I'm going to go ahead, just add a description here and click create. It's going to take me into my project dashboard within my debt covenants project. Where I want to start is I want to go ahead and import data. I'm going to go ahead, create a new template for data import. I'm going to name this balance sheet. I don't need an image. I don't need the description. I'm going to click save and I'm in my blank balance sheet data import template. Just going to go ahead and select the file and you see that it shows a weird error, not implemented. This is because those are files on a OneDrive folder and I have the file open. I'm gonna go ahead, close the file, try importing it again, and it's gonna work. So this is the import wizard. I'm gonna go to my balance sheet tab from my Excel file. I'm gonna make sure that my file contains headers is turned on because I have the headers in the file. Click next. It asks me for codes that I can use to directly map, but I don't have any code. I'm gonna go ahead, click next, proceed. And it goes through my file and it selects things to import. It pre-generates some line codes that I can use. And you can see here that, let's say those are empty because those are headings. That's why they're switched off. Also formulas, let's say total non-current assets is switched off because it's a formula. I can switch those on, but usually whenever I'm using anything that's a calculation, I'd prefer to have this typed in as a formula within the project and I don't want to import it as a number. Just going to go ahead, look through, and I see that my bank debt, both in the non-current liabilities and in the current liabilities, is matched to bank debt. And this means that those two will be summed when I import. And that works for me because in terms of covenants, I care about the total debt. I don't care about the short-term portion of it. I'm going to click next. And here I'm going to click once and click a second time to select the 3 periods. Next, this is what I'll be importing. Import, and here it is. An important thing to do is I need to fix my period dates. I'm just going to type in 2018 here, tap, and it's going to default to 1st of January, 2018-1231, enter, and this is it. The same thing for 2019 and for 2020. Oops. Okay, I have my period dates now and everything is looking awesome. Let's go back to my data imports, create a new template. I want to call this income statement. And here I'm going to import file, select the same file, stay on the income statement sheet. I'm going to click next. I don't have line codes here, and it pre-selects everything that's not the formula. And although I can just go ahead and import Ebitda, I'll actually calculate it on my own. I'm going to click next. Those are the 3 periods. I want to import, next, and then import. And I have it here, and because I have the same headers for my period, it matches the periods. Okay, next thing I want to do is I want to set up some assumptions. We'll be looking at 3 covenants: net debt to Ebitda, interest coverage ratio, and debt to equity ratio. I'm going to add 3 targets. You see that we have some default pre-populated assumptions here. I have the company name, the company owner name, and you can see that this is my templates company. And those have the project name. And I can use those to reference the respective value within my reports. Let's go ahead, add an assumption. I'm going to call this debt to equity target. And I want my debt to equity target to be 1. Save. Add an assumption. It's going to be my net debt to Ebitda target. It's going to be 4. Usually above 4 or 5 is already a red flag. So let's go ahead with 4. And another one is going to be my interest coverage ratio target, which is going to be at 3. I have my assumptions here, and I'll be able to use those when I perform checks to see if I've broken my covenants pretty much. The nice thing is that once I want to use the same project for a different company, I can always go in and just change the targets here, and it's going to reflect throughout my project. Next thing, we'll need some formulas. So let's go ahead and create a new formula. And keep in mind, formulas are for repetitive calculations that I want to reuse. Again, before I start creating more formulas, I actually need my data points so I can reference them. I'm just going to use this here to open it in a new window. And for this here, let's go ahead and open the balance sheet. So I'm going to go hit create a new formula, and this is going to be my debt to equity ratio. And the formula is going to be my bank debt, my total debt over my shareholders' equity. Let's go ahead, copy my debt. It's my bank debt over, open bracket, my shareholders' equity is my share capital and retained earnings. So share capital plus retained earnings. The title here will be debt to equity ratio. And I don't need a description, so I'm done. This is my first formula. So every time I want to reference this formula, it's automatically going to go ahead and calculate it based on those data points for the respective period. My next formula is going to be, I'm actually going to need my Ebitda. So for my Ebitda, I'm going to need my income statement. So it's going to be my sales minus cost of sales, general and admin expenses, and selling expenses. Let's copy the longest one. So here I'm going to go sales. And because I'm not always sure if my, let's say, cost of sales is shown with a negative sign or a positive sign. So I'm going to go sales minus ABS, and this is going to take the absolute value. So I'm certain that it's always going to be subtracting it from my sales. Okay, minus ABS, again, my general and admin expenses, and minus, what was the last one, was selling expenses. Okay, this is going to be my Ebitda, save, and that's it. Let's create a new formula, and this is going to be my EBIT. For the interest coverage ratio, some people calculate it with free cash flow, some people with profit, but I found out that it's easier to calculate it with EBIT because it's more accessible as a metric when free cash flow is sometimes hard to get. I'm actually going to name this EBIT ICR from interest coverage ratio. And this is going to be my Ebitda minus ABS. So I want to add the non-operating expenses, and that's it. Usually, EBIT will be calculated by also subtracting the interest expense, but because I want to see how much I have in order to cover my interest charges, I'm going to leave it out of here. So I'm going to get the EBIT pre-interest. I can name it something like that, pre-interest. Save. Then let's go ahead and add the formula for our interest coverage ratio. And this is going to be my EBIT ICR over my interest expense. And also want to always make sure that I'm taking the positive number. My interest coverage ratio. Save that, and the only thing left is my net debt to EBITDA formula. It's going to be my NDA ratio. And the formula is going to be my bank debt, which I remember that we mapped it. We mapped both the short-term and long-term to bank debt. So it would be easier to calculate. And because I need net debt, I need to subtract cash from that. I'm going to go to my balance sheet and look for my cash and cash equivalents. Subtract that, and then divide this whole thing over EBITDA. And this is going to be my net debt to EBITDA ratio. Save, and now I have all the calculations I need as predefined formulas in here. So the next thing we can do is we can open our reports, and I'm going to open them in a new tab just in case I need to reference to my formulas. And we don't have any report, so let's just go ahead and create a new report and start adding items. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the heading. And I'm going to utilize one of the assumptions that we saw earlier. So I'm going to go with company _ name. And you'll notice that I'm surrounding this with curly brackets. And that's how it knows that it should go through the assumptions and replace this with my actual company name. Calculation. Okay, I have my first item here. And let's go ahead and add some tables. So I want to start with my debt to equity ratio, for example. So this had, if I go here and look, debt to equity, it has bank debt, share capital, and retained earnings. Bank debt, share capital, retained earnings. And then I can just add my debt to equity ratio. Let's format that a bit, make that bold. Save, and here it is. Go ahead, add a new table. It's going to be my interest cover ratio. And I know that I need my EBIT pre-interest, and I need my interest expense, and then I need my interest coverage ratio. Format it in a similar way. Save, and here it is. I actually forgot to do something, so if I click on the table, you can see that this is probably going to be a number between 0, 1, or something like that. So I want to increase the precision to 2, just for the ratio at the bottom. And I'm going to do the same thing here. And then let's add a table for our third ratio, which is our net debt to Ebitda. So for our net debt to Ebitda, what we need is our bank debt, cash and cash equivalents, and Ebitda. I'm going to go with bank debt, cash, and then net debt to Ebitda. And I also need my Ebitda, of course. Let me just reposition this here. Okay, format it in the same way. Make this bold, make sure to change the precision. Save, and I have my 3 covenants right here. So go ahead and click Launch Report. It's going to go ahead, calculate everything for the 3 periods that I've imported and show me my ratios. We can then go ahead and add logic to analyze if it's below the target or above the target. Next step would be to add some logic to our project. So right now we can see our debt to equity ratio, our interest coverage ratio, and our net debt to Ebitda ratio. But we'd actually want to compare those to our assumptions. Let's open them here just to have them. Want to compare those to our targets and make sure that we're meeting our covenants. We're not in breach. Go ahead and add an analysis point. Okay, we're going to start with our debt to equity ratio. If I just add it like that, it's going to go to the bottom. So let me just bring it up here, right below our debt to equity ratio table. If I launch my report like that, it's going to show me the value for each year. What I want to do is I want to do an aggregated analysis point where I can just have one line of output. Of course, you can go ahead and look through all the help here. It has all the formulas that you can use. Let's go ahead and start with over the period from, and I'm going to use tilde, that's below the escape, shift this key, tilde, or I don't know, to concatenate, or I can also use the concat function and list everything with a comma, but this is just a bit faster. So we're analyzing our debt to equity ratio, our D ratio, and I want to make sure that I'm getting the earliest period and the latest period where this ratio can be calculated. For an example, if you have the data from 2018 to 2020, but one of your formulas is a growth formula, it's going to need the previous year. So effectively, it won't be able to calculate it for 2018 because you don't have 2017. So then your whole analysis on this formula, on this growth ratio, will start from 2019. Therefore, I want to make sure that I'm using the periods that are related to my D ratio. What I can do is I can reference the earliest period for every line item or formula. So D ratio earliest period dot name will give me the name of the period. Tilde, then 2, tilde, D ratio latest period dot name. And here I'm going to use the curly brackets and say company name operated at an average debt to equity ratio of, here I'm going to use the number format function, so I can format the D ratio dot average. This will give me the average value of the debt to equity ratio. I want to show it with 2 digits after the decimal point. Comma, which is, and here I want to say if it's below or above my target. And for the debt to equity ratio, we want to stay below our target. What we're going to do is I'm actually going to put those in brackets. So D ratio dot average below the target. If you remember, in our assumptions, we have our debt to equity ratio target of 1. We want to check if this is below our target. We want to say below, and if it's not, we want to say above. Concatenate this with the target value of, and you see that I'm leaving those spaces here because this is just going to return the word and I need to have the space somewhere. I'm going to go with number format again, the target, 2 digits after the decimal point, and then I end the sentence. I can save this with Control Enter or the save button at the bottom, but let's see if it works for now. Go ahead, launch report, and here we can see over the period from 18 to 20, Templates Company operated at an average debt to equity ratio of 0.49, which is below the target value of 1. That's good to know that we're below the target value. And of course, you can go ahead and make that much more complicated. You can check if the highest amount was below, if the latest year amount is below. But for now, let's just stick with the average. I want to make it more visual that this is what we want. So if I can just go back and edit this, what I can do is go ahead down here, and you can see that we have some styling options. So what I want to return is the style function, and it takes first the text, and then I'm just going to say color. And this is going to be it. So for color, let's just go ahead and use this nice crimson color. So the hex is DC143C. For my above, what I want to do is I'm going to do style. Here, I want to add a color. And this color is going to be 006400, which is a nice green. Okay, Control Enter to save that, and Control Enter to launch our report. We can now see that it's red. But remember, we're saying that if it's below, it's actually good. We're not supposed to go over the target. So let's just go ahead and reverse those. So this color will come here, and I'm gonna move this one here. So now my below is gonna be green and my above is gonna be red. Save, launch, and here it is, which is below the target value of 1. Another way to make it even easier to understand what's going on is we can add our target to our table here. I'm going to type in target, select DE, I'm going to make it italic, make the precision 2, save, and now I can see it here. Okay, let's go ahead and finish our analysis here. Tilde, then I'm going to add a new line. I'm going to start at the ratio. I want to say if it increased or decreased over the period. I'm going to add another check, the ratio.CAGR. CAGR is a compound annual growth rate, which will take the first period and the last period and see if it grew over the period. So I want to see if this is above 0, then let's say that it increased. If it's not, obviously it decreased to the from. And here I want to say from what number to what number. And it's not a really easy way to do that, but what we can do is we can grab our D ratio for a specific period, and here we can put the period index, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. But what we can also say here is debt to equity ratio dot earliest period dot index. So what we're doing is we're saying, okay, grab the earliest period for the D ratio, grab its index, and then give me the D ratio for this index. And of course, I want to wrap this in a number format with 2 digits after the decimal point. So it grew from this to, or decreased from this to, we just copy that, paste it down here, and I'm just going to change this to latest with the highest value of, and here we can just grab a number format function again, and in it I want the ratio.max, which will give me the highest amount achieved in the ratio.max period. So this would give me the period where the maximum amount was achieved, .name, and the lowest value of number format, the ratio.min to achieved in the ratio.min_period.name, and ending the sentence. And it's really important not to forget that you don't need a tilde on the last line. Okay, Control Enter, and it works over the period from calendar year 2018 to calendar year 2020. Templates company, which is my current company, operated at an average debt to equity ratio of 0.49, which is below our target value of 1. The ratio decreased from 0.48 to 0.47, with the highest value of 0.50 achieved in calendar year 2019 and the lowest value of 0.47 achieved in calendar year 2020. I want the same thing for my interest coverage ratio and my net debt to EBITDA ratio. So I can do is just gonna duplicate this and then drag it down here. And all I need to do is replace the references to the ratio and the target here. I can go ahead and do it here manually, but if it's as simple as that, what I usually do is open a new document in Visual Studio Code, paste this one here, and just select whatever as the language. Then Control H is find and replace, and I just want the D ratio to become my ICR ratio. Replace all those, and I know that I have my target here and here. And an important part is that here we want it to stay below. So that was the green one. But right now we want to stay above. So what we can do is just make this above the target and just change the words here. And of course, I need to change this here to be interest coverage ratio. Copy this whole thing and repaste it here. Save, launch our report, and here you have it. Over the period, Templates Company operated at an average interest coverage ratio of 42.33, above the target value of 3. It increased from this much to this much with the highest value in the last year, and so on. Okay, let's also go ahead and add our target here. And that's it. For our net debt to EBITDA ratio, I'm not going to copy this one because I'll have to reverse those again because the logic there is the same as the debt to equity ratio. We want to stay below our target. I'm going to duplicate this one again, drag it all the way to the bottom. And let's go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to copy this, go here, replace it. And then I want my D ratio to become my net debt to EBITDA ratio. Change all those, add, and then here, and change this to net debt to EBITDA ratio. I want it to be below, which is going to be green, and above, it's going to be red. Copy the whole thing, repaste it here, save. Go ahead, add our target here. Italic, 2, save, and we can launch our report. As simple as that. And the best part here is that, let's say it's a few years in the future. We're going to go to our income statement, import a file with 21 and 22. Gonna import the income statement. Next, I don't have any lines. Okay, everything is mapped because they already exist. Next, I want those two periods. Next, yep, this is what I want to import. Merge. Then just gotta set the dates. 2021, 12/31, and 2022, 12/31. Okay, let's go to our balance sheet and do the same thing. Import our balance sheet. Next, next, proceed. Everything that we need is mapped. Okay, those are the two we want to put in. Import, merge. Here it is. So now all I need to do is go to my debt covenant in my reports, launch my report, and I can see that everything is calculated, the text is updated for all of my covenants. That's all we're going to do in this tutorial. One thing that you might want to go ahead and try to change on your own is have like an upper target for our interest coverage rate, because usually this much might mean that the company is under leveraged, meaning that it's not utilizing debt enough. So it could be growing faster if it utilized a bit more debt. So the idea is that you can have all those here, and this is also available as a template, so you can go ahead and start from here. But the idea is that once you have those, you can always go ahead in the assumptions, just change those to reflect your bank covenants, and everything is going to be updated and calculated for you. If you made it this far, you should now have a pretty good understanding of how Magnimetrics works and how you can leverage our templates to build your own projects or start from scratch and build any kind of logic that you need in order to support your decision-making process. Thank you guys for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and maybe even punch the bell icon to receive notifications every time I upload a new video. Till then, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. So, in the first link, look at this report that you're gonna take an income statement and balance sheet and convert them to a ready report. That sign up and take a look. You might find that